All right, guys, so we got to talk about Act 3, Scene 1 of Julius Caesar. So they're all walking down the street heading to Senate. And when I say they all, I mean Caesar, Brutus, Cassius, Casca, Decius, Metellus, Trebonius, Ligarius. All of those people who were at Caesar's house are now walking to the Senate on the street. And as they're walking, the soothsayer approaches them. And Caesar actually is the one who says something to him, and he says, "The Ides of March are come." So he's kind of trying to flex on him a little bit and say, like, "Hey, it's the Ides of March, I'm fine." But then the soothsayer says, "Yeah, but they're not gone yet." So obviously, Caesar is still being a little bit arrogant. Then Artemidorus approaches him and asks him to read his letter that he wrote. And this is where Decius jumps in and says, wait, Trebonius needs you to read his letter. Like, he's got something for you as well. And Artemidorus is like, please just read mine first. Like, mine is more important because mine actually has to do with you. And then because Artemidorus says that, Caesar says, well, then I'm not going to read yours first. I'll read Trebonius's first because if it has to do with me, then it should come last. So he ends up not reading Artemidorus's letter. So that choice obviously ends up being pretty deadly for him because they all go into the Senate chambers. And as they're going in, Popilius approaches Cassius and says that he hopes that their enterprise will thrive. So basically, he hopes that they will succeed at killing Caesar. And so Cassius is kind of concerned that Popilius might be planning to tell Caesar about this. Like, this was like his way of implying like he knows what's going on and he's going to spill the beans to Caesar. But Popilius actually apparently is supporting it because he doesn't say anything to Caesar. And again, this is an example of this whole conspiracy that's supposed to be secret is actually not very secret because apparently everyone knows it's going to happen except Caesar. And so their plan, the conspirators' plan for how they're going to approach Caesar and kill him, is that they send Metellus Cimber up to make a suit to Caesar, so basically make a request of Caesar. And Metellus Cimber's request is that Caesar let his brother come back from exile. Not Caesar's brother, Metellus Cimber's brother. So Metellus Cimber's brother has been exiled, and he's now asking Caesar to let him come back. And Caesar says no. Caesar refuses, and he says it's because Metellus Cimber is like kneeling and begging, and that Caesar is too like stone, like he's too hard to be taken in by flattery and begging. But obviously we know that isn't true because he just got taken in by flattery in the last scene that he was in. So as Metellus Cimber is like making his request to Caesar, all of the other conspirators come in too. So they're all kind of like pushing in towards Caesar, pretending that they're trying to support Metellus, but actually their plan is to get really close to him so they can all start stabbing him. So that's what they do. It is, I think, Casca who stabs him first. So they're all pushing in, and like Caesar's going on and on about how like he can't be moved. He's like so constant, and like nothing people say will ever change his mind. But obviously we know that isn't true. He thinks way too highly of himself. And so Casca is the one who stabs him first. And so then they all start stabbing. All the other senators freak out. And Caesar's last words are "et tu, Brute," which means "and you, Brutus." So of all the people stabbing him, and there's like a good number, there's like 8, 9? There's a good number of people stabbing him. Brutus is the one that actually really affects him and makes him upset. He can't believe that Brutus, of all people, would betray him like this. So their plan is to bathe themselves and their weapons in Caesar's blood, which sounds a whole lot like Calpurnia's dream. They're going to cover themselves in his blood, cover their weapons in his blood, and walk up and down the streets and basically shout peace, freedom, liberty. So kind of like bragging on what they just did, hoping that it will make the plebeians / commoners support them because they're like going out saying, hey, we did this for you. We got you liberty and freedom. Support us. So they also realize that Antony is gone. So Mark Antony ran away. Um, so that's what they're planning to do. They're planning to like bathe themselves and their weapons all in Caesar's blood. And then Mark Antony's servant shows up and basically says that Mark Antony wants to come talk to them and get an explanation. But he won't come unless they promise that they're not going to kill him. And so they all agree to this. They all say, yeah, all right, like, we promise that we will not kill him. Like, all the murder that needed to happen today has been done. Just, like, let him come. So the servant leaves, and Antony shows up. And so Antony basically asks them what their reasoning was, and he says that if they tell him what their reason is, then he will completely support them. He will acknowledge that it had to happen, and that killing Caesar was the right thing to do, and like he will publicly throw his support behind them. So they give their reason. They actually don't. Brutus basically just says like that they did have a reason. He doesn't actually say what the reason is. He's just like, I promise you that we would not have done this if we didn't have a good reason. They don't actually tell him the reason. But Mark Antony's like, okay, cool, good enough for me. We'll call it square. But I only have one request of you. I want to speak at Caesar's funeral. And so Cassius is like, heck no, this is a terrible idea. But Brutus is like, no, Cassius, I got this. Like, don't even worry about it. I got it under control. So they end up going with Brutus's plan, as they have been since Brutus joined the conspiracy. They just do what Brutus says. And so they agree that Antony will speak. And Brutus's plan is that he will speak first. So he will go up, give his speech, get the people in their favor, then let Antony talk. Which we'll see how that works out in the next scene. So all of the guys end up leaving, and Antony is still there. And so after they all leave and Antony's by himself, he ends up having a soliloquy where he reveals his true feelings and his plan. So it turns out he's actually not supporting them. He has no plans to support them whatsoever. In fact, he hears that Caesar's nephew, Octavius, is planning to come to Rome. And so his plan is to buddy up with Octavius and to basically turn public opinion against the conspirators and then take over. So that is their plan. And essentially Cassius was completely right and Brutus was wrong, that they should not have let him, they shouldn't let him speak. But Antony is going to speak, and he's going to do his best to turn the commoners against Brutus and Cassius and all the other conspirators. And so he's going to start plotting with Octavius. And that's where Act 3, Scene 1 ends. We'll head into Act 3, Scene 2 tomorrow. There's a lot of rhetoric in that one, so we'll have to do some rhetoric activities before we keep going. So just be aware that that will be coming up. Bye!